All right, another version of practicing to get uncomfortable in front of the camera. I don't need to practice that. I am already very good at it. But let's take it to another level. And eat. While on camera, recording, and then uploading that. Usually eating is something that kind of calms me down and relaxes me, so it shows a bit, but I figured why not. So I just had this situation. I had a call with my coach again, and it made me realize something, that there's two kinds of feedback you can give someone. One closes doors and makes people smaller, and one opens doors and expands the scope of possibilities. And so in this situation, I'll just share the setup. He's a great communicator, and he's kind of getting on social media and on YouTube, so he's making first steps with that medium, and he started he wants to use a teleprompter. And so he mentioned that he's not sure if he wants to actually keep using the teleprompter or not, but he bought one and he's going to try working with it a lot over the next couple of, days and weeks maybe, to then decide if he wants to keep using it or not. And I was like, well, you know what? Can I just give you my feedback on that? And he's like, sure. And then I told him, I think you should not use a teleprompter. Because, I believe that you are much better. I believe that the time it takes you to become good and natural of recording something and talking into a teleprompter, I think that's actually harder for you than just learning to become comfortable speaking freely into a camera. And I gave him kind of 3 minutes of reasoning why I thought that for him a teleprompter was not the right choice, because in my mind, he is really great at speaking free flow. He's the kind of person that can, start talking and people just listen, and he really captivates the audience. It's his craft, right? He does workshops, he does trainings, he does communication coaching, and he really has that skill. He's a very good storyteller, so he can talk and make people want to listen because they're really genuinely interested. So I told him, you know what? You're such a great freestyle talker. Why don't you just forget it, more or less, right? Just don't do the teleprompter thing, because it's not really your thing, and you're so good at freestyle talking. So that, and my feedback was, you're probably not gonna get really good at teleprompter style videos, but you very will get really good at free flow freestyle talking. And he listened to me, and then he said, all right, I can give you feedback now. Actually, he used a technique on me that he has shared with me before, which is, listen, I want to talk with you about something, but I'm not sure yet quite how to bring it up to you in a way that makes you want to talk about it and actually have a meaningful conversation about it. And in my mind, I'm already, it's going to be a difficult topic, because that's his technique of bringing up difficult topics. So I'm laughing. He sees that I recognize what's happening, and he's like, all right, tell me, how would you like it? Green, yellow, or red? Which is another kind of code for how direct do you want the feedback to be. I can be very soft and gentle, which is green, right? This would work in a corporate setting. I can be, a little bit more direct, or I can be very hardcore straight talk, and that's red, right? And so I'm like, yeah, just give me red. And basically his feedback was that my feedback was bullshit, and that I was talking out of my ass because I didn't even know why he wanted to use a teleprompter. And so he then explained to me why he wanted to use a teleprompter, which is not just so that he could read words off the screen for his own videos, but that he actually wanted to try working with the teleprompter so that he could either recommend it as one tool and one technique for his coaching clients to work with. But then he would have to first really try it and experience what it's like to work with a teleprompter. And there were other reasons, but they were all good reasons. And I did not know about all of these reasons when I told him, you know what, don't do the teleprompter. Teleprompter is not for you. And so I planted the idea in his mind through my communication that, like, you're probably never going to get good at teleprompter style videos, so just stay with freestyle because it's just a lot more your natural style. And he was like, listen, the natural style that you see today, and then there's another friend who's really like one of the best people in the country at doing this one thing, and he seems so natural at it, and it seems so effortless, like he's just connected and it flows. And he said, well, in the early days it was not like this at all. It was very structured, very detailed, very meticulous, planned work. And now, after many, many years of doing it, he can do it seemingly effortlessly freestyle, and it just flows. But there's years and years and decades of very deliberate effort and work and structured effort in this until it arrived at the stage where it's at and where now he actually can do freestyle. And that a lot of sales start like that. So, and just because I had kind of seen the first steps or attempts he made at using a teleprompter, and it was obvious to me that this doesn't look great, and you're much better when you're talking, in a natural, free flow style voice. In my mind, I was like, well, when he's into it and he's talking and he's in the flow, he's a great narrator, a great orator. But based on the one or two instances where I've seen him use a teleprompter, I was like, it doesn't match. It doesn't seem. But again, he's with the first attempts. And then I based the potential for what he could do on the first two attempts that he had actually made, and compared that with the results of the craft that he's been practicing for so many years, decades, multiple decades actually, right? And I said, well, you're so good at this, but you're not really good at that, so just keep doing this. But again, it's baby steps. And it still might actually be true that the teleprompter is not the tool that he should use for his work or not, but we don't know. And he has very good reasons to use the teleprompter. But my main takeaway here was that there are different types of feedback you can ask. One feedback increases the realm of possibilities, and another one limits it. One feedback makes a person more powerful, another one makes them smaller. And telling them, it's probably not yours, you're probably not going to get that good at it because I've seen your first steps with it, is not really, in my mind, it was, well, it's honest, right? And it was honest. But also, I really didn't have enough information to make that. Now, I had like a few observations on which I based this, and then I generalized it. And then I did not consider the impact it would have. Now, in his case, it doesn't matter because he's, someone who's listening very intently and very aware of what's going on in a communication. But if it's someone else who's not that, let's say, paying that close attention and just taking the feedback that they get at face value, they might actually internalize it and say, yeah, that's also how I felt. I felt it was natural talking into the teleprompter. And when I look at the recording, the ones where I really talk free flow and I talk naturally and I'm in the flow, they seem so much better versus the ones where I read from the teleprompter. They don't have that quality. But again, these were just the first steps. So could have asked other questions. I could have asked, like, well, what would have to be true? First of all, I could have asked him, why are you even using a teleprompter? Because you're so good at telling stories, at talking free flow. And then I would have gathered more context why it even was worth the effort. But the main takeaway for me is really that feedback should expand possibility, not shrink identity, right? And I kind of took my first impression and transferred it to turn into someone else's limitation, right? So you can think about it this way. Bad feedback closes doors. Good feedback opens more doors, or keeps them open, and then people can walk through it. And of course, there's situations where if you would have said he wants to be a ballet dancer, a professional ballet dancer and make his living with it, would probably have been a good door to close. But maybe there would have been a better way. Maybe I could have asked, well, why do you even want to become a ballet dancer at 60-something years old, which is not the case. And this is all very fresh on my mind, so I'm just sharing it and I'm thinking out loud and I'm rambling and meandering, and again I'm doing it just to get more comfortable being on camera. There actually is something freeing about doing this and being okay with it, and knowing that nobody will ever, even if they watch this video, nobody's ever going to watch until this point, because we are now 12 minutes into it and I'm rambling and rambling. And I think I'm exploring this out loud. I think that instead of giving my thoughts or my opinion, I should have stayed curious. Like, why do you want to use a teleprompter? And then I would have learned more about it. So I dished out advice based on too little information. I said, that is not you. But I should really have asked, what do you want to become? And keep in mind that a first attempt, or even the first 10 attempts, are not really indicative of what somebody is capable of or their potential. So when giving feedback, it is ideally you want to give feedback that adds options rather than removes options. Instead of thinking, will this work? And then it's a closed yes or no question. You can ask, what would make this work? How would you have to approach this to make this work? What do you need to make this work? Right? These are open questions that create possibilities and that prompt the mind to think about more possibilities rather than reducing the future. I made this observation, and there's a reason why I talk so much about this, because this is a thinking pattern that I obviously, it came out in this conversation, but it's obviously something I apply to myself first and foremost. So that's why I'm talking about it so excessively here. Like, this kind of, I know I'm not good at this, or I know you're not good at this, or I've seen that, well, it's not that good. This I know becomes a cage. So when you give feedback, you want to kind of protect what's possible while still improving precision, right? You want to sharpen. You want the perception to be finer while still protecting possibilities. Think about it. If there's something that you're really certain about, then try to switch back into a sense of curiosity, where you're curious, right? You go from, I'm pretty sure this is right and that is wrong, to, try to shift back into being curious. My first sense is that this is right and this is wrong, but I'm curious. What if it would be the other way around? Or what if that thing is right too? Right? And it kind of starts to expand the options in your mind. I can tell there's still more for me to explore around this. Because this is like, I kind of struck something here that is very meaningful for me, but I haven't found it yet. So I'm still exploring. But I'll come back to this. That's it for now. I feel grateful.